Sound speeds, and everyone loves war stories, and people in the film industry certainly have a lot of them, especially if they've been in the industry for more than a couple of decades, and they're more than happy to tell them. Now, the stories that you're going to hear in this series are not just involving high-profile talent and the locations they've been to, they also involve pranks to other crew members and just on-set life, or another day at the office, as we say. Now, 5 years ago, when I first started the Stories from Set series, I only had about 200 or so subscribers. And at the time, I was told these stories and I was wanting to share them, but I knew that if I released them all at the same time, they'd get lost in the YouTube algorithm. So I didn't want to do that. Instead, I just launched one story from each individual. And I have been waiting to release them. But now that the channel has quite a few more subscribers and has quite a few more years of staying power, I'm hoping that more people actually get a chance to hear these, because these are some fun stories, I got to tell you. Now, the first installment here is going to involve a sound mixer named Felipe Borrero. He's been a production sound mixer for over 40 years, and he has worldwide travels worth of stories. And I'll tell you, these stories are a lot of fun, and I can't wait for them to be shared with you. But here's the kicker. When I recorded this a few years ago, this was back in the era of Google Hangout interviews. And there was a glitch, and so all I have is the audio. So bear with us in this first installment, because there's not going to be any picture except a freeze frame of Flip's face as he's talking. But the stories are going to be well worth it. So minimize the window if you would like to, and enjoy these stories from Set with Felipe Borrero.
When I was probably about 21, 22 years old, you kind of, that part about respect and hierarchy and all that, you don't understand that. You're a sound guy, you want the best sound, right?
Correct.
So I'm doing a documentary about Cuba, 15 years after the revolution. So I'm in Cuba, and we're with friends, with the DP and the camera assistant. In those days, the documentary crew was a sound mixer, who was called a recordist, a assistant cameraman, who was also the lighter, and a DP. He always was called a DP. Anyway, so we're in a hotel waiting forever, and Castro is a night person, so we're like trying to stay up at night in case he calls and stuff. We're there about a week and a half, and we're sitting by an empty pool, totally empty. And the guy say, "Flip, why don't you ask that guy to fill the pool up? What, at least if we're gonna sit here, we can go swimming." I said, "Okay, I'll go ask him. It's probably a reason why it's empty." So I go over and I tell the guy in Spanish, the guys want to swim in the pool. And the guy looks at me and says, "Why don't they just go in the ocean? It's on the other side of the wall." And I said, "They want to swim in the pool." So he says, "Okay," drops his mop. He walks all the way around to the other side, and there's this giant wheel on the other side facing the ocean, and he starts cranking it, and the salt water starts coming into the pool. That was the pool.
So it just came straight from the ocean into the pool.
Yeah, I had to filter it so the fish wouldn't come in, but that's what it was. It was salt water. I was watching it fill up, and I said, "You guys got to swim in it now." I made him do that. So, because it takes just as long. It took probably about 6 hours to get the thing full, and then just as long to try and dump it and get the sand out and all that stuff. So he was really, really pissed about that. So on that same, finally, they call us from the office, and they tell us Castro's ready. We had just been out to a place that I forgot what it was. I think it was the Copacabana. And then we had come home about 11:30, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, we get a call. It says, "Castro's ready." And I said, "What?" "Get ready. You got 15 minutes. I have to pack everything and then go." So we get there, and Raul, his brother, is there to greet us. And I'm talking to him. We make friends. He told him who I was. I was from Puerto Rico, and so on and so forth. You know how Latins are. They just got along. So we set up, he has what he calls the war room. It's a long, probably 40 feet long topography map of the island. So we want to shoot it there as a background because it's got, you know, his trail and all that stuff. So we set up everything, and we set up for about another hour. We're waiting. Castro shows up. He has his cap on and his T-shirt. That's all. Just his T-shirt and his pants. He's got a cigar, and everybody's greeting him. And we're like, I've got the machines ready just in case. The cameraman's got his cameraman ready. And he says, okay, we're going to do this over here. The producer says, Castro said, no, we're not going to do it here. Let's go upstairs. There's air conditioning. So he walks upstairs, and everybody runs upstairs and leaves me with, I have two stereo Nagras, because I have to record Castro, I have to record the English, and they want these tracks separately, and I have to record the translation, and I have to be flipping the rolls to get everything done. So I'm trying to pack everything, and then everybody's set up and ready to go. And Raul sees me coming in last, and I said, he says, why are you the last person? I says, because everybody ran off and left me. I have to do everything myself. And he had 6 sound engineers to help him. And he gave him a look that could have killed him. They ran down there, got the rest of my stuff up there, and did everything. And then I said, okay, now I have to put a wire on Castro. And they said, no way. This is a sound engineer. You cannot touch him. No one touches him. Okay, you have to go through us. So I say, okay, I hand him the wire, not the wire, it was a lavalier because it was going to be plugged in. We go in there, he's set up in his office, all the lights roll. Okay, Mr. Castro, how are you, blah, 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 blah. And I hear,
Oh,
I said,
no.
what?
Oh, no.
And then I look, because I could see through the door, he's not in T-shirt anymore. He has his T-shirt. He has a bulletproof vest. He has a shirt on. He has his military jacket on top of that.
And the lav was buried.
Okay. Lav was on his skin. So
oh, no.
I'm waiting for a break where the roles would change and I could walk in between questions. And that break comes, and I go walking into the door, right? Next thing I know, there's 2 guys, 6'4", have me in the air, and I have my arms. And all I'm focusing is on trying to get that thing. And Castro says to Raul, who's this? And he says, I know him. He's okay. He said, what's wrong? I said, I can't hear him. He said, why? The microphone's there. He says, it's under 6 layers of his stuff. And Castro looks at his brother. His brother looks at him, and he says, fix it. So I opened up his shirt. I go down into his bulletproof vest, and the guys, all of these Cuban guys are sweating.
They're watching you.
22-year-old bearded, long-haired freak is touching our president. It was like they freaked out. But anyway, I took it out, fixed it where it's supposed to be, and I thanked the man, and I went back into my corner. I could have been shot.
Did you kill the AC when you interviewed him? That's my question.
That was the least of my problems. I couldn't hear him. I mean, never mind hearing the AC.
Yeah.
You know, it was in an office building, so it wasn't like an air conditioner in a corner in a window that was blowing. And there was no way he was going to turn off the air conditioner. We got the sound, you know, and I left the button. If you see that interview, you'll see that's the only time he has that top button open. And it was because of me. I said, I need that open because I can't hear them. The thing is, I'm talking to him just like I'm talking to you. I need that open or else I can't hear you. And he's looking at me like, oh, okay.
The last person that told Castro what he needed.
Remember, I was 22, 23 years old. I didn't know any better. In the mix? No, I didn't know anything about that stuff, you know? It's sort of like either you do it right or you don't do it at all. That was really good. And afterwards, we had dinner with him, and he gave me a bottle of rum made from molasses in a ceramic jar given to dignitaries. And that lasted for about 4 years before it was empty. But it was a nice present. Could have been dead. I mean, you could have been talking to my son telling the story about his crazy dad. I was doing this movie called Sweet Lorraine long time ago. Movie was a hit in New York. It ran in the same theater for 2 years. But the director, Steve Gomer, he's a friend, so it's okay that I mention this. he would get really involved in the scene and be looking at the actors and talking, and then all of a sudden he would lose his script. And in those days, it was a small crew, so he didn't have an assistant to take care of him. And we would spend another 5, 7, 8 minutes trying to find the scripts because all his notes were there. And we were close friends. So at the end of the show, we're in this big ballroom. It's wooden floors up in the Catskills. And he's saying, yeah, it was really great. I'm so glad we got to work together and stuff. And I said, well, let me sign your script. And he said, this. I said, there it is. I pointed to the other side of the room, and the script was on the floor where our last scene was. Little did he know that I actually nailed the script to the floor. So when he went to pick it up, the last page was still stuck on the floor, and he almost yanked his arm off, and we all were waiting for that. And that was my last prank on that film. There was another story. I think it was on the same film. The DP and him would get into philosophical discussions on why the scene should be shot in a certain way. It would go on forever. And they were so intense in what they were talking to each other about that they didn't even notice the rest of us. So remember when everybody was doing those pinned, the clothespin, the C-47s to everybody's shirt?
Yes.
Oh, I did that to both of them while they were standing there talking to each other. But I tied a bungee cord to that C-47, and then I tied a sandbag to that. And the entire crew was mesmerized, watching them, walking towards each other, going back, walking towards each other, going back. We were all waiting for the thing to snap. And it wasn't until the last second, like 10 minutes into this conversation, they both went to embrace each other and say, okay, we'll do it that way. And they felt the tug, and they turned around and they saw the rope. And of course, they all knew it was me. And on that same show, we had the key grip was always late for set. Had to cut the lock off so many times from the truck. He would go out and drink and then come back, go to sleep, and he would knock himself out. So us and the other grips got together, and we took a sash cord, wrapped it around the doorknob, twisted it onto a 2x4, and then we screwed in the 2x4 to the frame of the door. This was bungalow, so it was like a second floor. Mm-hmm. And then we had a ladder. Before he had gotten home, we had screwed down the windows so he couldn't open the windows. The only window that we left open was the bathroom window, and you had to be Houdini to get out of it.
So what did he end up doing? So what did he end up doing?
He went through the bathroom window and dropped to the ground and then went to work. He was so mad. The doors opened in, so there was no way he can push the door out. So since the door opened in, tied the doorknob to the rope, and the rope to a 2x4. So we just kept turning it as a tourniquet. So it was so tight that you could not open the door. So he went to the next thing, the windows, and the only window we purposely left open so that he would notice it was the bathroom window. But remember, this is in camp, so it's all in stilts. So he had to jump out that.
Had to leap.
About 7 feet. It was high enough so the rooms didn't get flooded. I was in the middle of a set that we built in Montana. It was a cowboy set, the beginning of the century. People were going out west. This woman went out by herself, and she was being harassed because she was a single woman, so she dressed like a man. It was called Ballad of Little Joe. So Ian McKellen is one of the pioneers in this town, and he's going to show this woman, who he thinks is a man, how to skin a rabbit. So they have the rabbits, and he was teaching them how to pull the fur and the skin off, pull them back. And we had done this like 8, 9 times already. I am bored out of my life. I like to do dialogue, these kind of effect stuffs and cutaways. It was just their hands. You couldn't even see their faces. It could have been anybody. Anthony Ortiz was the boom operator on this thing. And there was, at the same time, I think it was YouTube or MTV, Mr. Bill. Do you remember Mr. Bill?
I do not.
Okay, Mr. Bill was a claymation animation, and every time something went wrong with him, he'd say, "Oh no, Mr. Bill, Mr. Bill," and he would be squashed or something like that, right? So Anthony is the one in the room, and I'm in they built an outhouse in the middle of town. It was just big enough for my cart to hide me so I wouldn't have to be moving around in the snow. So I'm in this house, and I'm in the private line yelling, "Oh no, Mr. Bill, Mr. Bill, oh no!" As Ian McKellen's like pulling the skin off and stuff. And Anthony can't hold it anymore. He is laughing so hard that his headphones fall off. And now everybody in the room is listening to me. Everybody's laughing, and then the director grabs the mic down. She says, "Flip, cut it out." It was funny. So,
what did Ian do?
Ian didn't know. I mean, he was like, he was into his scene. And my first film that I did was I think it was last summer of my 3rd year in college. I did a movie with Sylvester Stallone and John Savage, and I found it on YouTube of all places. It's the whole movie. You can watch it. I thought they had taken it off.
Huh.
As a matter of fact, Sly had bought the movie so that this guy Schnitzer could not show it anywhere. So
He tried to hide it.
He tried to hide it. This is after he had done Rocky. He went back and gave him, I don't know how many millions not to show the movie ever. But the movie turned up in YouTube.
I bet he wishes that he could do the same thing with Party at Kitty and Studs.
I don't know, but this one was horrible. And it was the kind of thing that there was no money for anything. And I was doing sound. I had no equipment. I remember my lavalier was this big. And the cable was, remember those, how thick those old cables were?
Yeah.
And I had to put that down the person's neck, under his shirt, run the wire down his leg so they could walk 40, 50 feet. And you look at the shot and you notice that you don't see their feet. And the reason was they were dragging a cable. We didn't have any wires. And I was recording on an Nagra, and all I had was, I think, an 815. That was it. I did the whole movie on an 815 and 2 Shure lavaliers, the size of a tentacle box.
That is old school. That's awesome, though.
It was the big, heavy studio Shure shotgun that had the big magnet on the back. Imagine trying to boom that on an aluminum pole.
Yeah.
But I did it, and I actually watched the movie again, and it was, the sound held up. I was with, I'm not going to mention his name, starts with a B. And we're doing a movie called Surviving the Game with Rutger Hauer and F. Murray Abrahams, Ice-T, he was the prey, a bunch of people. And Gary was wild. He was wild. And it's sort of like, I told the director, I need to wire him, or I can't hear him because he's walking around the thing, and there's a chandelier in the middle of the table. There's a table with 8 people sitting around. The only way we can get him is to follow him with the boom, So he says, all right, yeah, go tell him. It was like, what, me? Yeah, just tell him. So I went up to him, and obviously it wasn't the response that I wanted, very negative. And I said, well, I'll see you in looping then. And Gary said, what? And he came out to frick a second, because he sounded like Fred Flintstone cursing at his wife. But it was like we kept getting closer and closer to each other, getting louder and louder. And finally the AD came and said, hey, you got to stop. And I didn't realize I was getting so adamant about the thing. But those are the days when I really fought for what I was doing. Today is sort of like, it's your movie. I'll do whatever you want. It's sort of like, so it's up to you now. You want to do something about it? We'll do something about it. I'm only as good as you let me be, is what I tell you. I'm a mixer, not a magician. I can't make it better if you don't let me. That was the only time I ever got into with an actor. Or anybody yell at me for something I didn't do. I mean, wasn't my fault. I mean, I didn't do anything to deserve that kind of talk.
Yeah.
And he got back at me. We did a scene in the woods, and I had to wire him because he was taking off in a ATV. And I put a mic on him, and he gave it back to me in pieces. It was the first time I saw the inside of electrosonics. He took it apart. He ripped it off. And today I'm like Mr. Mellow Jello. I just water off a duck's back.
Writing the resume until retirement.
Yeah, it's sort of like, dude, if you let me do a good job, I'll do it. It doesn't mean that I don't fight with the where the generator is put, where if the door's open, I'll go.
Yeah, you still do your job.
And sometimes even beyond what if my boom operator, the utility, is having slack from them, I will step in. Most of the time I just stay off the set, because I think when I start barking more than I should, and my crew on set loses their power, they don't get the same respect. Well, Flip's not here, so it's probably not that important. So I let them fight it out, and if they need backup, then I will go in and duel it out with whoever I need to do that.
As a boom operator, I really appreciate that. So what'd you think of those stories? Brought to you by Felipe Borrero. I'll be honest with you, I got excited about it when I thought about going back and releasing them now. And listening to them really reminded me of how much fun they were really to record. So if you happen to be a professional sound person and you have some stories you'd like to share with us, please send me an email at alan@soundspeeds.us and let's line this thing up and talk about it, because I'd love to share your stories as well. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Soundspeeds. Be sure to tune in the future for more stories from set and, of course, as always, sound advice. Have a question you'd like answered or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.